Hey, welcome back to the project. I want to just kind of tie some ideas together and really kind of show you some where our thinking is going and how we're kind of advancing these concepts. Come over to the board for a second. The central tenet of what it is we do, we want to demystify this, is what we say is mobilize at position of restriction. What does that mean? Mobilize the position of restriction. What this means is that what we really always want to be thinking is that you're a complex system of systems, and that whatever's going to get tight in this physiologic range is going to get tight. And as long as I account for joint position, I understand where the rotation is and the stability, then when I mobilize there, I'm going to go ahead and stay stable and stay tight and stay organized. Watch your finger. So here's the deal. If this really removes a lot of the guess play about where am I? Where do I need to deadlift? What position do I need to improve? What I need to do is mobilize that position where I'm having a problem. So one of the things that's come up is that when we're always looking at trying to get into the tissues and restore sliding surfaces, we have a lot of ways to do this. One of the techniques we use all the time is what we call flossing, which is taking a band. For this case, for example, is that I've got my hip loaded, and then I've approximated a good position of the joint, and then I basically take and work that stiffness around that joint piece. Great. The issue is that that does not necessarily capture the local tissue problem, right where I'm going. So I've approximated joint position, I've gotten tissues to start sliding again, but I'm not necessarily isolating that kind of that little restriction piece. So along comes the thinking of Dick Hartzell of Jump Stretch, and he came up with this compression band idea, and we put this up on the website a bunch when we have swollen joints, we have painful joint ranges. Well, I've been thinking about, can we restore sliding surfaces, especially in these high proximal places? We have tacked this and stretched this and mobilized this, these high pieces, but it's hard to get in there sometimes. So I want to show you. What we're going to do is, whenever I can, the problem is if I put this load, if I sit on a ball and try to kind of slide these tissues and tack, it's not the same thing as being loaded and actually functionally moving. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this band, get them on jumpstretch.com. I'm way up in my grundle business in this gluteal fold. I'm going to go ahead and give myself about 50% stretch in the band, maybe a little bit more. Wrapping that around, it's going to bunch up. Again, that would be 100% stretch, 50% stretch is a significant amount of stretch. I'm going to keep coming around right where I feel like I have a spot. And this is dedicated to all those kids who get a little funny hamstring thing when they're sitting. And I'll talk about that in a second. So I'm just going to keep winding this around right up at that insertion of those hamstrings right onto that sit bone back there. Is that trochanter? What is that?
Ischial-tuberosity.
Ah, I'm just kidding. It was the PTs on the mic again. Come on over. So look, now I've got this monster compression right here, really proximal up. So anything that happens really forces a large stretch right in this tissue between the band and that insertion of that femoral head into the acetabulum right there in the socket. Now look what happens. What we hypothesize is happening is that we often want to try to get roll, slide, and glide so that hip rotates in the socket without capturing all the tissue. What we don't want is that hip to roll and then steal all of the slack with it. We want it to roll in place. And one of the problems is that as we sit, those tissues get matted down, and what I hypothesize is happening is as I sit for a while, that femur comes out, which looks a lot like a deadlift position, and that femur just takes a little stretch right in those tissues. I put a little stretch right in this area, right where that sciatic nerve comes out of there, and lo and behold, bam, I get a little ischemia, and I get this burn when I'm sitting. So look, one of the easiest things we could do is just get in this position, work on deadlifting, work on getting to position. This was something that you're feeling that pull when you're actually deadlifting, you could actually get over your deadlift. Now, a few caveats. My leg is not turning white yet. I'm not getting tingling. If you get tingling, stop, right? But in this position, bam, I can really start to load up and work on those corners and really get those tissues to move in a way that I haven't been able to before. Come on over here. Still doing okay. And now to combine my techniques, I've got this localized compression right around that place where we see a lot of athletes complain of problems. It gets ischemic, it's roped down and nasty. Then I can wind up, go ahead and get in, and start doing my flossing in this position. I can actually rotate, bias those tissues. Looks like that's my loaded position. Floss, I can bob up and down, which basically moves the femur, or moves the pelvis on top of the femur. That works too. Or both positions, and I can camp out there until I feel like I made change. And you will make significant change. This is going to be a regular part of our system. We've got a few more tricks we've been tinkering with. In the next couple days we'll unleash about how to make this worser. What you're going to find is that this makes sense. I get an active tack and stretch expressed in the mobilization position where I'm actually loaded and actually binding the tissues. Not trying to generate some correlate for movement on my back. I need the hip approximated, I need to express those tissues as I'm actually loaded, and then I try to floss and create that change in the context of the actual movement. This is why we put the arm over the head. It actually looks like actually putting your arm over your head, right? It's not some other correlate for that doesn't happen. So ideas, get yourself one of these. If you've got that high hamstring business, this is the missing piece. We'll see you guys tomorrow.